Kris Jenner shocked the internet with her latest debut in Paris, where she showcased a new face. Everyone has been talking about it, speculating about it, wondering what is the reason, and quite frankly, I think most people are guessing right. She most likely had a second facelift. And at 69, her face looks refreshed, rejuvenated, her skin looks amazing, the structure of her face and jawline and neck all look gorgeous. Kudos to her and her surgeon. We're gonna take some important learnings from this transformation and share them with you, and I think you're gonna find what we're about to talk about very interesting. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Karam, board certified facial plastic surgeon and founder and creator of Karam MD Skin. I specialize in facial rejuvenation, which basically means I help people look as young as they feel. And for the last 20 years, I've helped thousands of people undergo the transformations that we're talking about today. I want to point out this is not about gossip, this is about education. I'm not speculating or diagnosing anything. I'm going to share my clinical perspective based on publicly available photos and address some of the speculation that has already been shared publicly and give my opinion and weigh in on that. Kris Jenner's transformation illustrates beautifully what I talk about every day and what I share with many of you. And today we're going to take it within that context and see what we can learn. So what's got people talking? In Paris, just recently, Kris Jenner made an appearance and it has gotten the internet going crazy. Images of her new look has gone viral and it's got experts, both surgical and non-surgical, speculating, talking, and guessing what she may have had done. On the surgical camp, you have the deep plane facelift, upper and lower eyelid blepharoplasty, fat transfers, and laser resurfacing. On the non-surgical side, you have people speculating that she had Morpheus 8 and threads and Botox and fillers. Let's just set the record straight. Again, I don't know what she had done, but I can tell you that the results from my observation and my perspective are not the result of non-surgical treatments. In fact, they represent a very well done, comprehensive approach to surgical rejuvenation, which deals with the deep structures of the face, the fascia that shapes the jawline and the neck, and the excess skin that's removed around the upper eyelids and the lower eyelids. And when you look at these before and after images, you can see that there's a lot more that's being done than surface level treatments. And as a result, she has the shape of a youthful face, which is fundamentally what it takes to look more youthful. However, equally as impressive is at age 69, how beautiful and youthful her skin looks. And I'm going to share with you, in my opinion, how this all came about and what you can do personally to learn from this and also apply this to your own facial rejuvenation journey. Because at the end of the day, celebrities are influencers, but they are ordinary people who are making decisions. Some of them are good decisions, some of them are unfortunate bad decisions. And as we showed in our previous celebrity video that was published a couple weeks ago, you saw that there was a lot of learnings that can go between well-done procedures, good decisions, and unfortunate outcomes that left people regretful, even admitting so publicly, etc. So at the end of the day, there's a lot to learn here, and I cannot wait to dig in a little deeper. So is this a facelift? Well, in 2011, Kris Jenner on the Keeping Up with the Kardashians show underwent a facial rejuvenation procedure, a facelift, and was very open about it. She was 55 at the time, which is a perfect time to undergo a surgical rejuvenation. In fact, that's, I would say, the typical target for most people to have their first facelift. The question is, did she have a second facelift? And from what I can gather from these images that we've seen on the internet, most likely she indeed had a second facelift, which would be perfect timing at age 69 to have the second lift. I say this because there is no non-surgical technology or technique or procedure that can create change like this. And this is something that I've spent a lot of time sharing and talking about over the last several years, that the only true way to improve the shape of the face and return it back to its more youthful look is through surgical procedures. Kris Jenner's recent transformation represents somebody who's had a facelift, perhaps upper eyelid blepharoplasties, and maybe even some fat transfers, although her volume before the procedure looked pretty good to me, which most likely represents the fact that either she has had some volume procedures along the way, fat transfer, fillers, etc., and oftentimes these don't need to be repeated again. Patients ask all the time, if I get a facelift at age 50 something, will I need another one? Well, the fact of the matter is a facelift doesn't stop aging, but it significantly slows it down as the years go forward. So instead of rapid, more aggressive aging that would happen in somebody who didn't have a facelift, the aging that happens after a facelift is much more slow, much more manageable, much more graceful. So when you look at her before this recent transformation, she didn't look like a typical 69-year-old, but certainly now after this current transformation, she looks, what do you think, 30s, 40s, somewhere in that range, which is totally doable when there isn't a significant amount of aging that has transformed the face into a more older configuration. And what I mean by that is, let's say her first facelift was being done now at age 69. Unfortunately, the face goes through so much remodeling that it's very difficult to return it back to what it was when you were in your 40s, for example. And most of us, in our mind's eye, we see ourselves in our 30s and 40s, no matter what age we are. So being able to hit that target range is really, really beneficial, and it's sort of the optimal outcome for these type of procedures. Another important caveat to make here is that not all facelifts last. In fact, the quality and technique of the lift is so important. Nowadays, we're hearing a lot about deep plane facelifts, and I think it is a great thing because it is such a more durable and effective lift than standard traditional facelifts, which just tighten up the superficial fascia and a little bit of the skin, and even some of the more early mini facelifts, etc., which almost didn't even last a year or two. The deep plane facelift should give somebody 10 to 15 years before they feel like they need to do it again. So to answer that common question, typically if you start at 50 something, you perhaps will do one more in your lifetime. So the target is generally about 2. And we saw with my patient, Michelle, who we shared her journey in one of the previous videos, that was exactly the path she looked. She looked amazing in her 70s because she had a lift earlier in her life. And as a result, it was a chip shot to get her back to this beautiful, youthful look. And we have many, many examples of that in our practice. Now, beyond surgery, there are many reasons why Kris Jenner looks so youthful. Remember, the foundation of all of this is to look as young as you feel. When you look at Kris Jenner, something that strikes me is that she gives off a very youthful vibe, always has. The way she dresses, her hairstyle, the way she moves and talks, etc., gives off a more youthful vibe. That is equally important because now when you get a face shape that matches that, you have something that is cohesive and it works together. This is a huge part of my philosophy. I've always said you need to feel young in order to look young. And Kris Jenner honestly embodies that completely. Another very, very important part, and this is something that I would say people underestimate. Her skin is flawless. Her skin is something that she has been very vocal about publicly. In fact, she's shown her 9-step skincare routine, all the lasers and different treatments, the Kardashians in general, but Kris specifically has shared over the years. It's an important part of it because one of the things that I think many people don't realize is that surgery can reset the clock in a matter of 2 or 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is in the operating room. But the skin is a commitment that takes time. It takes time in the order of years to both maintain it, but also to improve it. And most people don't realize the commitment that it takes. And this is one of the things that I always talk about, the skin and the shape of the face, right? The skin has to be young, the shape has to be young in order to look young, because what does a 20 or 30-year-old look like? They have young looking skin and a young looking facial shape. And by shape, I mean this sort of V-shaped jawline, smooth neck, lifted cheeks, and nice volume. And I've said this many times, that skin is something that you can completely control on your own, and it doesn't require big procedures and expensive things. It really comes down to sun protection and skincare. But the fact is, when she shows her 9-step routine and the number of actives and all the complicated steps that have to go involved in that, that's simply too much for the majority of people. And that was really at the core of why I personally took skincare into my own hands and developed the Karam MD trifecta, because taking 20 important actives, retinol, vitamin C, niacinamide, peptides, all these important actives that stimulate collagen, decrease pigmentation, ceramides and lipids and hyaluronic acid that bring moisture and hydration back to the skin and improve pores, etc. All of these, doing them in individual steps was just too much for my patients to do. So the trifecta basically simplified skincare into 3 steps so that you and everyone else who's using it can maintain consistency and do it continuously over time. And I talk about the 3 C's: continuity, consistency, and commitment. Those are necessary ingredients to achieving great skin. You can't get it by doing something partially or on and off, etc. And the best example of this is diet and exercise. You can't be healthy and have a beautiful body if you are not doing it consistently. Daily diet and exercise is what it takes to transform your body, and daily skincare and sun protection is what it takes to improve your skin. And then when you couple that with surgery, now you have something incredibly special and beautiful and youthful, and that is what everyone wants. And here are a few examples of some of our patients who've undergone vertical restore and have been on trifecta, and you can see that beautiful balance between young-looking shape and young-looking skin, and when you have that together, age just becomes a number and the person looks as young as they feel, and you cannot tell their age. In our practice, I call this the 2-pronged approach: skin and shape. Shape is addressed when you see laxity and sagging and all these things. That's addressed surgically to restore shape, and skin is addressed with skincare and sun protection through the trifecta. When you put these things together, you have magic. You have true time machine type facial rejuvenation.
I think a great example of this is my wife Netta's story. She had a fat transfer in her 30s. She took great care of her skin and protects her skin from the sun every day. She didn't mess around with unproven treatments, eats really healthy, and commits to exercise regularly. She totally dials in her lifestyle and her commitment to her skin. And at 52, when she started looking in the mirror and started to see that there was a mismatch between the way she looked and the way she felt, she got a vertical restore to match her youthful spirit. And now at 53, she's thriving and truly looks as young as she feels. She's a testament to what being smart and efficient with anti-aging treatments can look like.
And this is what I love about Kris Jenner's transformation, among many other celebrities that I've shared with you in past videos, is she truly represents that. So what can we learn from Kris Jenner's transformation? Well, number one, I want to make a simple point that this type of transformation is not for celebrities only. There's no secrets here. There are no magic bullets. There's no secret, potion that's reserved for the celebrities. What this represents is a good plan, a well-executed strategy towards anti-aging. She's made excellent decisions along her path of aging and maturing because she didn't go down the path of overfilling her face with fillers. She didn't go down the path of doing every single, trending procedure that was out there. She stuck with the basics, took care of her skin, did surgery in a timely way, now had a second lift because she still feels young, she wants to look young. And this is a beautiful, beautiful illustration of what efficient management of aging looks like. Kris Jenner has focused her entire life, most likely, on good skincare, sun protection, and taking care of her skin and leaving it looking supple and youthful and clear. Consider skin your responsibility. You need to take control of that, and you can. It's something you can do at home, and it's something you can have incredible success with. Honestly, personally, despite the fact that I developed the trifecta, and I keep saying trifecta over and over again because it is an incredibly effective approach to skin anti-aging. It has exceeded my own visual expectations since I've developed it. But the point here is that anyone can take care of their skin. Retinol, vitamin C, sun protection, etc. Those are the basic things that everyone can do. When it comes to surgery, you might be thinking, well, she's a billionaire, she has access to the top surgeons, etc. And she does. Certainly, top surgeons cost more than somebody who's earlier in their career, who's developing their practice, or maybe not be as busy or not be as in demand, etc. But at the end of the day, good research, you can find a surgeon who can deliver a nice result for you. And if it's within your budget, then that's great. If it's not, Don't waste your time and money doing other things because you can't afford to do a facelift. Concentrate on your skin. That's 50% of it. Save up at some point, get yourself prepared to do the right procedure, but don't waste your time, money, and ruin your face by doing little things that don't add up to what you're hoping for it to do. In past videos, I've shared with you some warnings about things not to do. I'm a strong believer at the end of the day that you owe it to yourself not to chase trends, not to jump on the brightest and shiniest new object that comes on the facial rejuvenation platform, and stick with the basics, stick with tried and true. Doing the right thing at the right time is so much more important and valuable and helpful than trying to do 10 little procedures to accomplish what can be achieved with one well-executed facelift. We've also learned that a youthful mindset can have a huge impact. And what I mean by that is the way we dress, the way we do our hair, the way we present ourselves can also really create a youthful look. But the bottom line is when we see these type of transformations, keep in mind that hair, makeup, clothes does play a role in creating that overall impression of how young somebody looks. All right, my friends, after taking us through that journey, I hope you realize that Kris Jenner's transformation is not magic. It is a simple application of the two-pronged approach, and now you know exactly what the two prongs are: shape and skin. Focus on those two things and you will look as young as you feel. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you found this video helpful or interesting or enjoyed it, make sure you hit like. Drop any comments or questions in the section below. I will try to answer as many of them as I possibly can. Make sure you watch some of our other celebrity transformation breakdowns and other videos. You're gonna find them equally as interesting. All right, folks, until next time, Dr. Karam.